I'm bored, let's do an AMA. That's right, it's another Ask Me Anything video. If you would like to participate in these types of videos, go down in the description box, click the link, and submit your question anonymously. You can ask me anything at all about any subject. It doesn't matter. If I decide I want to talk about it, I'll include it in one of these videos. Today, we're going to answer 5 questions, so buckle up, let's get into it. All right, first up, here we go. I find it interesting. I'm seeing a lot of the videos saying the anti-woke is dying, so is the red pill movement, it's dying. Makes perfect sense, no offense. They both go hand in hand. Glad people are finally waking up. I would say full offense. Be offensive. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? That's what I would say. But you're not wrong. I'm seeing more and more videos pushing back against this. Now, what's happening is I believe that a lot of this kind of started here, meaning like it started on the internet, it started on YouTube, it started on social media. And so we're seeing the pushback happening here first, I think. Because all the mainstream stuff that picked a lot of these things up, all these podcasts and stuff, they're kind of elevated versions of what started out here, I believe. I could be wrong. That's just my opinion. I feel like I saw it here before I saw it anywhere else, meaning online. But seeing a lot of the pushback on it tells me that, yes, people are fed up. They talked about how, you know, we swing in an extreme direction, opposing whatever the current status quo is. And it's happening much faster. And I think that's because the movement got so saturated so quickly and everyone sort of jumped on. And it's powered by, you know, money and wealth and trying to amass and grift and all these things. So all of these things are happening and there's just not enough of that to go around to all of these spaces. And so the diminishing returns we're seeing, the draining of that, we're seeing, especially here on YouTube. Let's talk specifically about YouTube. Especially here on YouTube, there's just not enough hours in the day to watch all of the anti-woke content. So people are doing exactly what I said like 6-7 months ago. They're being very choosy about where they're investing their time because time is currency. You only have but so much time in the day. And you have to balance that between making money at a job or whatever it is you're doing, whatever your hustle is. You're trying to make money doing that. And you're balancing that between your free time here on YouTube and on social media. So you're only going to pick a few people that you're going to watch. And people are going to gravitate towards those larger channels, the larger content creators. They might even gravitate out of the fandom space completely and just go directly to like the Tim Pools, the Joe Rogans, the Nick Fuentes, all these people that they're going to outside of the fandom space. The fandom space was the pipeline. That's what we've been saying, guys. We've been saying this for a while. This was the pipeline. This is the beginning of the tube. The end of the tube is way, way, way over there. And although they share the same ideas, this is their foot in the door. Once they go through the door, there's no reason to stay here anymore. Everybody's moving on. They're going to the next party. So that's what we're seeing happen. So it's going to take a while for this to travel down that pipeline, but it's definitely happening. Again, I'm going to be making videos about this, you know, over the next few weeks as we go into 2026, showing and exposing that a lot of these channels, a lot of these content creators just aren't generating the kind of social media clout they had before. They're all struggling to do it. That's why we're seeing so much infighting. There's a lot of infighting happening right now. If you look around, you see people in these groups that used to be buddy-buddy with each other, fighting with each other now. They're generating their own conflict to try and stay relevant because they don't have any other choice. They don't have any choice. That's why you see larger channels kind of punching down now, coming after accounts like mine, smaller accounts. When they have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, they're coming after my channel. It shows me that they are concerned. They're worried. They see what's happening. They see what's happening. So thank you for your comment. I appreciate it. All right, next up, this is a big one, so let's go ahead and read this one. I commented before on this AMA forum and watched a recent video on how Nerdrotic and Dreaker's channels aren't as popular as they were previously. I will raise the issue again of which you seem to conveniently avoid, the issue of Asmongold. I don't really avoid Asmongold. I'll explain my reasoning for that as we go through this. He is significantly larger in terms of audience across multiple platforms. Any of the chuds you talk about in his presence continue to grow from Twitch to YouTube. Just today listed by Stream Charts as the #2 streamer in the US for 2025 behind Kai Cenat for watch hours. The final boss of slop tubers, grifters, and chuds, but you always seem to avoid discussing him when it comes to questions of channel death and growth, people's fatigue and hate content, etc. Why? Okay, we'll start there. I will give my reason for it. First and foremost, Asmongold and Kai Cenat are completely different in terms of what they're doing from, Critical Drinker, Nerdrotic, those guys. It's a different formula. Like they're in the same store, but they're different formulas. Asmongold is primarily an IRL streamer. He just streams all the time. Same thing with like Kai and iShowSpeed and Aiden Ross, any of these guys. They're all sort of like IRL streamers. And if you wanted to compare Asmongold to someone that does that, it would be one of those guys. It would be one of the streamers that stream a lot of hours and do a lot of IRL stuff. Like, I would even say that he fits more in with like Moist Critical, like Charlie. Like that's where that is for these guys, right? That's why I don't compare them. And their content isn't even really the same. Like Asmongold reacts to just random shit, random stuff on the internet. Even though their opinions might end up at the same place, that doesn't mean they're providing the same type of content. I don't avoid discussing him. I don't talk about, like if I was talking about Asmongold, I'd be talking about Kai, about Aiden, about iShowSpeed, about any of these bigger, I would be talking about those channels. But that's not the kind of content I do. I've done like 3 videos on Asmongold before, so I don't avoid him. If he talks about something that I feel like I have an opinion about, I'll say that. I will say it. But just like I've said with like Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic, the larger a content creator is, the longer it is going to take for them to fall. The harder it is that it's going to be for them to fall. Asmongold could pivot. He could pivot because his content isn't locked into like fandom stuff like these guys. These guys are locked into a specific like 4 or 5 different topics that they can do that works for them. And then you have sort of the leech accounts, the ones that are adjacent to it, like Yellow Flash and these other guys who will talk about more political stuff. They will dive into that stuff. They'll talk about more cultural stuff. But like Nerdrotic and Critical Drinker, these guys they're on specific lanes of the highway, and these are the things they talk about. They talk about the downfall of Hollywood. They talk about how culture is woke and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. But it's all packaged in a fandom type community. That's where they are. That's not Asmongold. You're trying to compare him to these guys is like, to me, the comparison is very loose. Yeah, they have some of the same opinions. They might have a crossover in their audience, but they're not providing the same kind of content. To me, it's 2 different things. Does that mean that Asmongold is better than them, like providing better content? No, he's still a shit poster. He's still a slop tuber. You know what I mean? Like that's what he does. But it's a different thing. If I were to make content about Asmongold, that's all my channel would be about, because the guy streams like, what is it, like thousands of hours a month? It would be very difficult to cover him without just cherry picking random things, which is why I've only really talked about stuff that he said that I feel like I had a big enough opinion on to actually talk about. And you say, why? Okay, because the phenomenon of fatigue you speak of isn't happening to him. It will happen to him if he doesn't pivot. When culture shifts, it will happen to him. And subsequently, it becomes apparent you avoid talking about him within the context of dwindling interest in Chud content because his existence and continued success, international popularity will dismantle your... No, it won't. It's not the same analysis. It's a different thing altogether. There's tons of channels that just clip Asmongold. I'm supposed to factor that into the equation too? All the channels that clip him and stuff? Like, no, he doesn't do the same thing these guys do. That's why I primarily focus on video uploads on their channel. It's the most consistent thing you can look at. Live streaming is very different. It's a different beast altogether. That's why when I talk about what they're doing, I look specifically at the metrics and the numbers. So you're going to say that the numbers I'm providing are wrong? That every time I cover one of these channels and show that there's a downward trend in their numbers because Asmongold is doing well, that my analysis of Chud content is wrong. That's not even, like, that doesn't make any sense, man. That doesn't make any sense at all. Like, are you denying the math? Because my argument is based on math. That's where my argument lies. You're talking about a streamer, somebody who is streaming to people every day against other streamers. It's just the comparison of those things. How would you even quantify that? How would you even do that? There might be some weird high-end mathematical equation you could do, but like on a base level, I don't think it's a comparable thing. His gig really is no different from, yes, it is. At the end of the day, they might, again, have some of the same opinions, but what they're doing is vastly different. hate content, and many would argue is much more radical and exceedingly more corrosive because he's outside of the fandom space. I focus particularly on the fandom space. That's what I focus on. Will I talk about stuff like Trump, Nick Fuentes, Joe Rogan, Tim Pool? Yeah, occasionally I'll talk about them, but they're never really the main topic of my videos. Like that's not what my channel is really. Like I have specific stuff that I'm focused on. So you're accusing me of being afraid of talking about something when it's not even really what my channel's about. That's kind of crazy. Yet it's more popular than ever. Again, why? How does this harmonize with your analysis of these other channels? I've already explained that. Also can't help but wonder if you're afraid of talking about him because he didn't cook me. How did he cook me? This is such a bad faith comment. He took one of my videos and released it chopped up to make it seem like I was saying something that I wasn't saying. Like, how is that cooking somebody? Anybody can do that. I could take like a video of Ryan Cannell and just take out sentences and package it together like I'm responding to comments that he made that are taken out of context. I could do that if I wanted to. Matter of fact, people have told me now that I show at least 50 to 75% of a video before I stop because I want to give as much context as possible. In the video that Asmongold made about me, he chopped it up. I showed it. I made a video where I showed that he cut out portions of my video. So it's okay for them to like take videos and cut them up and then argue against a straw man? That's okay? All right. As a final statement, are you selling the hope that Chud content will eventually fizzle into the void? Do you think this is realistic? Not totally. I don't think it'll totally go away. I actually think the larger channel, what we'll see, bookmark this video. What we'll see is we're going to see a lot of the channels like Melanie Mac will just stop making content and they'll go into like, well, I would say stop. They'll stop uploading videos regularly because it's no longer financially viable for them. They will shift into live streaming. They'll do that as long as they can to try and like get as much money that way as they can do. And they will ride that out until there's nothing left. Unless they find a way to pivot. Most of these channels aren't smart enough to pivot. There is one. I'll mention that in a second. But a lot of them will, that's what we're going to see happen. Even live streams are becoming less and less lucrative. We saw Nerdrotic, Gary, who can't really get the Nerdrotic Nooner out regularly. It gets canceled over and over and over again because he's not seeing a lot of money on it. Right? That's the reason why. It's not an important thing for him because he's not getting as much money on it as he needs to keep it going. So it keeps getting canceled. That's why he can't get guest hosts and stuff like that. He can't afford to pay people to do it because it's just not bringing in the money that it was bringing in before. So if you look at his community tab, you'll see that his fans are becoming exceedingly tired of him canceling that live stream that he has scheduled or pushing it back or whatever, the Nerdrotic Nooner at 12 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? Like that's basically, it's just the writing's on the wall for these guys. So we're going to see more and more of this scaling back of content, scaling back of their teams, less people available on live streams, less people available to edit and do all these things. All of these things will get scaled back until they eventually turn into like smaller channels again or shift content. So like Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, who has shifted into politics. Politics is evergreen content. It is content that has a higher ceiling. You have a much wider group of people to talk to because politics, you can pull in everyone from everywhere. Like it's not as narrow as fandom content. So if a channel like Nerdrotic wants to survive at the level that he's at, he's going to have to pivot inevitably to something else. They might start second channels to try and keep their numbers up because they want to keep that money coming in. And let me be clear here. I want to say this. Let me read the rest of yours and then I'll say this. Even during the peak, woke hate content still exists and has always existed. Unfortunately, will always exist in the pendulum swings. Interest in Chud content will wax and wane. So sorry to say, but your analysis is misguided if you believe it will somehow magically disappear, never to be seen again. I don't think I've ever said that we're going to see it go away completely. When I say go away, I mean become irrelevant. It will become less of an issue on the YouTube pipeline because the YouTube pipeline is going to be dominated by AI and stuff like that. I just don't think the Chud content is going to be as lucrative as it was back during the COVID era, which is when a lot of this grew. I think hoping or facetiously speaking about this in a way that like, oh, well, you must be wrong, because you're looking at the math and here's this one example of someone who's doing well out of like 50 channels. So your analysis is wrong. That's bad faith. Yeah, it's either bad faith and you know that it's bad faith, or it's just a really stupid way of looking at it. When I do my math, I'm looking at channel subscribers, I'm looking at content uploads, I'm looking at things that I can quantify with numbers to back it up. I'm not looking at where these channels are on anybody's top 10 list, right? I'm not looking at what their hours are with their live streams and things like that. That's not what I'm looking at. That's not the metric I'm using. So you are trying to compare Asmongold and what he does to the uploads and subscribers of these channels. These are not comparable metrics. They're not comparable. And you know that. I can tell from reading this comment. You know that. You understand that. But no, to sum all this up, I don't think we'll ever see them completely go away, but their relevancy will dry up. They won't be able to grift off of this. The people that stick around will be the true believers, the ones that are doing this because they truly believe they're trying to change culture. When you see someone like Mjölnirs, and I'm going to use her as an example because she is a big example. And then you also have side scrollers as well. That's a channel that I think is really interesting to watch when all this is happening. Mjölnirs abandoned upload content, just completely abandoned it. She went so far into the grift, she came out on the other side, shot herself in the foot, and then she could never actually get herself back up and running again. And so now you'll find her live streaming on one channel for a couple hours every now and then, because I believe Mjölnirs has another job. That's what I truly believe. I think that she was no longer able to sustain a full-time thing with YouTube, and so she found another job. Side Scroller Podcast is trying everything they can to stay relevant, even doing IRL streams like Asmongold or like I Show Speed and those guys, trying to raise, I think it was like $30,000. I don't know for sure. That might be incorrect. But they're trying to raise a big chunk of money over a week's period doing IRL streaming. That's a complete shift from the kind of content they typically make. They keep trying things over and over and over again to stay afloat. And pretty soon it's going to be moving money from one hand to the other to try and make this thing happen. You run big companies, this is what happens. If you're a channel like me or any of these other guys where I'm the person doing everything for my channel, the editing, the thumbnails, background music, uploading, maintaining the output on the channel, doing all of this myself, I only have to worry about me. And it's not my job. Like, this isn't my job. I run several businesses outside of YouTube. So I don't have to worry about YouTube the same way these guys do. That is a massive difference between what they're doing and what a lot of the guys in my space are doing, right? So they have to reach a certain point in finances to stay afloat. And the boat's not floating for them anymore. That's just the reality of it. Any like, oh, look at Asmongold, he's growing or whatever, that's cope. Next up, we have a question about Critical Drinker. Can you talk about the Critical Drinker's review of Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein? It sounds like he didn't actually watch the movie at all. I mean, I'm not shocked about that. It's a very short review. In the first few minutes, it sounds like he's reading about the history of Frankenstein from Wikipedia or ChatGPT. He also claims that the movie doesn't bother to explain how Victor Frankenstein brought the creature to life and doesn't explain his motives. The first half of the movie, about an hour or so, shows how Victor studied both Western medicine and Eastern medicine and studied galvanism to come up with the device that he eventually uses to create the creature. It also shows how the death of Victor's mother when he was a boy deeply traumatized him and made him want to conquer death in the first place. The Drinker's entire review only contains information that you could probably guess from watching the trailers. I know that EFAP tried to come for me on this, but by the way, my Critical Drinker EFAP reaction is stuck in a false claim bubble at the moment. There's a company, it's not EFAP, it's not Maul or any of those guys. It's a separate company. They claimed like a minute, I think it's like 45 seconds to a minute of the video randomly and said it's their content. So it's been blocked in several countries and they're taking all of the revenue and stuff from it. So I need them to clear that. I've already disputed it. It's been sitting in dispute now for about 4 or 5 days. As soon as that dispute is cleared, I will upload it. Or I'll let you guys know. I'll fill you in on what's going on because it's a really long video. I don't want to have to like take it down, edit it, render it and then re-upload it again. I'd rather them just like take the claim away, but I think it's a bad actor company just trying to claim money off of videos. Anyway, with that being said, it doesn't surprise me at all. Critical Drinker's audience has accepted that they don't care if he watches the movie. I've already determined that with my videos of this. They don't care. The EFAP guys don't care. They're like, oh, well, of course he watched it. But then he makes tons of mistakes when he's talking about it. And in their video, to me, they also try to defend mistakes that he made. Again, you'll see that when you see the video. But they're okay with this. They're okay with this kind of content. These guys now have become sort of a replacement for the media itself. And this is what, when Leslie Headland was talking about Star Wars, she mentioned this. These guys have basically jumped in ahead of TV shows and movies to gatekeep that content from people and just tell them how they should feel about it, how they should think about it. And it's upsetting for me, not because I care whether this movie over here makes a bunch of money or this one doesn't. Outside of that, I don't really care too much about the financial part of it. But it sucks because there's no conversation to be had with people. If I'm talking to someone about Frankenstein and all they've done is watch Critical Drinker's review of it, then what kind of conversation are we having? They didn't watch the movie. They don't know the details of it. The details that they do know are going to be wrong because they're going to come from Critical Drinker who's it's filled with mistakes and inaccuracies in his reviews. And the vast majority of his reviews are just him reciting what the movie is. That's all his review is. Is like, well, this is what happened, and oh, blah, 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 a funny quip, and then a clip from something. Like, that's all it is. And so I'm not at all shocked that this is the situation. I would do a reaction to this because I actually haven't seen this video, but if it's a Critical Drinker video, I kind of know that it's going to be him talking about the film, making a funny joke, repeat a clip that we've seen a million times, and then do that for the vast majority of the video. That's typically what he does. I could be wrong, but I highly doubt it. I would do that, but I've done a lot of videos about Critical Drinker over the last week, and I do have another one coming up with the EFAP video. So we're going to wait on this one. I might visit it later on. We'll have to see, but thank you for your comment. All right, next up, maybe you have discussed this on stream, but have you noticed how many of the anti-woke anti-fandom grifty channels have shifted into right-wing politics? You list a bunch of names here. You find many of the chuds inserting themselves into streamer drama, most notably when it comes to the anti-Hassan bandwagon to follow the footsteps of the likes of Tectone and Asmongold. Opinions on this? What the hell's going on here? I thought they were just into talking shit about video games and superhero movies, laughing my ass off. I said this a couple comments back. There's a ceiling on that. We're already seeing the ceiling happen. We're seeing it with channels like Nerdrotic and Critical Drinker, where they're hitting that ceiling. There's not a lot of growth left for these guys. And this is why trying to compare that to Asmongold was not good, because Asmongold isn't bound by the same ceiling that these guys are. Even though they're both talking about like anti-woke stuff, it's a different breed. It's like, it's a different conversation that's going on. Asmongold is reacting to all kinds of stuff, right? Like he was reacting, I believe there was days and days and days where he was reacting to Epstein file stuff. You wouldn't see that from like Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic. They wouldn't spend days and days and days talking about that because it doesn't really fit into what they're doing. So there's a very low ceiling now for this fandom content, especially with the cutting back of it. Them winning the culture war means that there's less stuff for them to complain about. So it's going to make them even less relevant. This is what I said earlier in the year when I said that if things do go the way they want, which is like less diversity, less XYZ, DEI, Sweet Baby Inc., whatever. If this goes the way they want, then they're going to have less content to put out. This is they brought this on themselves. This is them. If they really, really wanted to sort of continue to make money off of this, they wouldn't have turned it into a crusade against these products. Because the mistake they made is that they thought that they could continue to play victims forever. That's what they thought. They're like, we can just do the victimhood thing indefinitely and just continue to complain about woke this, woke that. But people are dialing out of it. They're moving into political stuff. You talk about the Hassan stuff, like Hassan, Asmongold, these guys are a different level from like the channels we talk about. They're at a different level to compared to like those guys in terms of culture. Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic are like culturally no ones compared to some of these guys, right? And so moving into politics, moving into actual like culture stuff, by doing that, you're raising the ceiling for yourself. This is something that Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers understood. He made that shift. I don't think he really wants to talk about Star Wars and stuff anymore, at least not the way he used to. I get the feeling he prefers to talk about politics. So it doesn't really shock me that some of them are making that shift into evergreen content or things that they can talk about all the time and they can complain about all the time with real stuff to bring up. Instead of like digging through fandom stuff and paying attention to everything that Brie Larson says, they actually have stuff they can talk about every day. Like legitimately, if I were to open up a political channel, I would have content every single day to talk about, multiple videos a day. It is a very, very lucrative, grifty space to be in, which is why a lot of people do it. It's why it's happening. The smart guys in this group will do that. They will shift over if they want to continue to grow. The ones that are just willing to like ride this out to the end, you guys already know how that's going to end up for them. Anyway, thank you for your comment. All right, we have one last comment today. This says, as a gay person, what do you think the industry can do to fix the problem that these guys see in media? Okay. I don't think there is I guess that's why you put it in quotes, fix the problem. Do you think they only want to see gay people disappear, or is there a way for gay people to exist in Star Wars, Star Trek, etc. without them complaining? I think there was probably a time prior to like 2 years ago where they would have not harped on everything a gay person does in these movies and TV shows. I think there was a bubble where they probably would have ignored stuff. But now they have to maintain the outrage. So they're going to go after every single thing. So I think seeing gay people disappear is what they say they want, but financially that's not actually what they want. They want gay people to keep being in stuff so they can complain about it, because they don't care about quote unquote fixing the problem. They just care about outrage content to sell to their viewers. That's all they really give a shit about. So I don't think there's any way to like course correct gay people in media for them. I think for them, it's just literally like complain about gay person, complain about XYZ, whatever. Never, ever, give a shit if they follow up on it, fix it, whatever. We're just going to continue to complain about it. That's what they want to do. So I don't think there's any way to fix any issues. And look, I think there are issues in the industry when it comes to gay people. I think a lot of gay media is misunderstood. I think you have a lot of people who are not gay in the writing rooms and the top end who are trying to write things for gay people that don't fully understand gay people. And look, I'm not saying you have to be gay to write a story that includes a gay person, but you have to understand gay people to some degree to do that. And I think a lot of people that are writing these stories don't really understand gay people. And that can be said for any marginalized community, really. But since this is specifically about gay people, I'm going to keep it there. I think that we need more gay people in the industry that are able to connect with the media that's coming out. I think it's really, really important. All right, with that being said, thanks everybody for the comments and questions. Whether you agree or disagree with me, I thank you for submitting them. If you would like to participate in this video series and ask an edgy question, just like the one I answered today, earlier in the video, you can do that by clicking the link in the description box. That's pretty much it. I'm out of here. I'll see everybody at the start of the week. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you then.